Welcome to this screencast. We are discussing scope of variables in a Python program. It's something you need to know for your GCSE. Here I've got a very simple Python program. We've got a couple of variables being created at the start of the program. We've got a function, and notice how in my function I'm creating two variables, and I purposely give them the same name to the variables that exist within that module, within that Python file. And then we've got the main body of a program where we are changing the value of these variables. If I run this program, what do we see? We start with x2, y3, and we call our function. Inside our function, x becomes 5. Anybody's got an idea what we've done to x for it to become 5? Yes, please?
We've added 1 to it.
Yes, we've added our two variables together. And for y, what did we do?
We subtracted it from x.
Spot on, we subtracted them. Okay. And then we go on to our third check in the main body of the program. But notice that x is 7. So how did we go from x is 2, x is 5, and now x 7? What's happened? Yes, please?
We've ignored the fact that x is 5, taken the previous x plus 2 and added 5 to it.
That's absolutely spot on. So I'll repeat what you just said in case my microphone didn't pick it up. So we ignored what happened within the function to that x. Why? Because of what we are learning right now, the scope of a variable. So in fact, that x5 is the original value of x2, add 5. And y1, it's when we added 10 to y, yes, and y became 13. So the 3 that we had originally, add 10 to that. Then we call the function again, and we end up with 20 and 6. This program does not modify the default scope of a variable. At the end here we got some text that sums up what has happened. If I go back to the code itself, what we mean by scope of variable is the variable that exists outside the function. That's what they do. They only stay outside the function. Inside my function, whatever variable I create there, I declare there, only exists within this function. And if I give them the same name, that name, the fact that I give them the same name, but that x and y here only exist within the function because they were created inside the function. The next example is forcing the variable that I create at the start of my program, forcing this variable to be used within the function. How did I do that? Yes, please?
The keyword global.
The keyword global. So what's going on here is I am overruling the default behavior, which we described with the previous program. By bringing in global there, it means that this x and this y, even though we are inside this function, are going to be the same as those two here created before within this whole module. How can you say that this wasn't creating a variable there, that line of code there? Have you spotted the reason why it's not really creating a variable, it's not declaring the variable? What would be missing? Yes, please?
Equal sign.
The equal sign, we are not assigning a value to them. They already have a value within the scope of a whole module. So if we run this program, you will see that it does exactly the same operation than the one before. And you will see that this time, as we call the function, the value of x and y are modified. So we don't end up with the same result as before. Why? Because we've overruled the default behavior using global, and this way, whatever happened inside the function impacted on variables that were created outside the function. We got one third example about scope of variable, and this is a special case, so it's different piece of code. What's happened to my program 3? Here it is. Now, you are all very familiar with this maths. So, has anybody spotted what part of the explanation about the scope of variable is this supposed to illustrate? Anybody spotted it? That first line over there, the import. So I am, oh yes, go on.
Is it that constants are always global?
That's a good idea, but it's not that. What we are doing here is we are extended what we've explained so far, which was the scope of a variable within a single module, within a single Python program, the scope of a variable inside that Python program within a function and outside the function. But here we're bringing variables, well, constant in this case, that are declared outside your Python program. They are declared inside the maths module. Once we import the maths module, we get access to the most famous maths constant, which is pi. Absolutely. Now, I am not going to start typing pi, because in all honesty, beyond 3.14, I don't know what's going on there. I've forgotten. Maybe you know more digits, but the computer knows even more digits than you do. So by using the value of pi defined within Python in the maths module, it will be much more precise than the one you use in your maths lesson. So far, so good? Now, all I've done here is call maths.py inside the function, and then for the other calculation, called maths.py not within a function, within the scope of the whole program. And when we run this code, you will see that both works as expected. So when you import a module, if within that module there are some variable declared, in this case pi, then the scope of that variable, you can access it within a function inside your own program or within the main body of your program. Right, so that's the end of my explanation about the scope of variables for your GCSE. Make good use of that in the next program you're typing where you need to be using functions. Thank you.